Are you a UI UX designer? Do you know that you need Google Form to conduct your surveys? In this video tutorial, I'll be showing you how you can carry out your survey using Google Form. The first thing you need to do is to log into your Gmail account on any device of your choice, be it your phone or your laptop. Now, locate this profile icon, right? And beside it, you can see these dotted lines where you can find all the Google apps there. Just click on it. And then you scroll to the bottom part. Now you see this form here. Click on it. Now this is what the interface looks like. So with this, you can create a new form from the scratch using this blank form option. You can use a predefined template, right? We have some default forms that can be modified or edited by you as a designer or as someone who wants to carry out survey. And then we have the bottom part here where you can find your recent forms. That's the forms you have created in the past. And here you can modify them you can edit them, and you can also rename those forms. So our focus today will be on how to create a new form from the scratch. Now I'll click on this blank form option. Here we go. We now have, now I want the questions to have options like I mentioned earlier. Now our option 1 is going to be age range, right? So let's say ages ranging from 18 to 24 will be our option 1. Ages ranging from 25 to 34 will be our option 2. So I have my 5 options from which a user is expected to pick one of the options. So we're done with question 1. However, there's a part of it I'm going to set up, which is the required part. Should this part of the survey form be a compulsory section or part that must be filled by the user? Yes, I want it to be a compulsory question. So therefore, I'm going to click on this required button to turn it on. Now it is a compulsory question. Without the users or a user answering this question, he or she cannot proceed. So I'll come here. You can see we have add question here. I'll click on this plus icon to add question. So I'm going to input my question 2 for this very survey. So this is my question 2. Question 2 is also going to have options from which the users are going to pick a desired answer or a preferred answer or an answer that best suits their. Now please note that question 1 and 2 are multi-choice questions. That's the reason why I have these multi-choice options selected. However, our third question and subsequent ones will not be multi-choice questions. So let's see how it works. And then I'm going to turn on this required button to ensure that users answer this very question before they proceed. Now I'm going to create a new section. I'll show you how you can create a new section for you to add other questions that are not related to the ones you have in the first section. So just bring your cursor here and click on this add section option. So as you can see, we now have this to be labeled question section 2. And then we have it to be untitled, and then there's a need for section description. So I'm going to set a title for it and also a section description. Even though the section description is optional, I'm going to set it. Okay, so I have set a title for my section 2 and also a description for it. So the next thing I'm going to do will be to add questions. So for our question 1 in this very section, I'm going to set our options to be a checkbox instead of a multi-choice option. So I'm going to click on this drop down menu here, and then I'll click on checkbox. So for every row and column, I'm going to set an option. So I have set up all my options. Now, in order for the video not to be too long, I'm going to stop adding questions here. However, I want you to know that each time you set a question, you need to come here. That's if the system does not pick it automatically, click on this drop down menu and then pick the kind of option that best describe your users' feedback. Now, what do we do next after setting up all our survey questions? We're going to click on this publish option. Now click on publish. So as you can see, there's a URL here. Google Form has generated a URL for us to send to users. Now you can decide to send it the way it is by just clicking on this copying option and then sending it to them, or by shortening it. So let's say we have copied and we're going to send it to someone for the person to fill the form and for us to get the feedback or feedback at the back end. Now look up here, we have questions here. We have responses. If I click on the responses option, you see that we have 0 responses. That's because this form has just been created and no one has answered or filled the form. So I'm going to send this link to someone and ask the person to fill in the form so we can get our feedback here. Now someone has filled our form, filled and submitted. So let's see what we have at the back end. Voila, you can see our responses has changed from 0 to 1. So here we have a summary of the person's feedback, right? If I scroll down, this was our question 1. What is your age range? Now the person's age range falls between 25 and 34. As you can see here, it is being represented by orange color. That's a darker shade of orange or a more saturated shade of it. That's why we have this. Now the next one is, how often do you use the mobile app? You can see the person says or take the option daily. Daily is being represented here by a darker shade of orange. Then for the checkbox, now you can see which challenge do you experience when making a bank transfer. The person the user picked poor network connection, difficulty finding the transfer option rather, entering the wrong account details, selecting the wrong bank, and entering. Okay, so we are done. You can see we have a chart here showing us the user's response. The next thing we're going to do will be to export this to Microsoft Excel so we can use it with ease, or so we can have a clearer picture of what our response is. To do that, we're going to click on these 3 dotted lines here where we have linked sheet, right? And then we're going to click on create a new spreadsheet. That's if you do not want to use a selected or an existing spreadsheet. In this case, I want to use this. We could give it a title and then go ahead. You can delete this and then type a title. So in this case, let me just say survey form, or let me just type demo. And then I'll just click on create. Now we're here. We now have the Microsoft Excel version of our survey response. You can see the timestamp here. Exact time when this survey form was filled is here. We have the questions and also the feedback. So here we have what is your age range, and then we can see that the user selected 25 to 34. How often do you use mobile banking app? You can see the users option and all of that. The good thing about this is that you can modify this the way you modify your regular or conventional Microsoft Excel document. So if you are interested in knowing how you can edit, how you can format, and how you can rename an existing Google form, stay tuned to my channel. So like, share, and subscribe. See you on the next one.